Today I'll be showing you how to install a Linux subsystem in Windows. So now in case you're unfamiliar, Windows Subsystem for Linux will allow you to run Linux command line utilities from within Windows and to kind of have a Ubuntu server VM or a VM of any distro that you like except its command line only. Now of course, I would not recommend this for someone who is new to Linux. If you want to try out Linux, I would go with a VM installation or a dual boot. This is more for experienced users who know the command line and would like to use some command line utilities within Windows. But without further ado, let's get right into it.
Alright, so now what you're going to do is go to your File Explorer, then go into your Control Panel, and then click on Programs, and then click on Turn Windows Features On or Off. And we've got to wait for that to load. Alright, now once that's loaded, you're going to scroll down to Windows Subsystem for Linux, and then check that, then click OK. And then it'll go ahead and install the libraries that enable the Windows Subsystem for Linux, if you know what I mean. Alright, and once that's done, and it doesn't take long, it'll ask us to restart the PC. We don't need to restart. And then we're going to close out of Control Panel. And then we're going to open up the Microsoft Store and then search for your distribution of choice. Like, I prefer Ubuntu. And then we're going to click on Ubuntu. And then this will give us kind of a Ubuntu server VM from within the Windows command line. But anyway, we're going to click Install. Now, I just want to say that you will need a Microsoft account to download these for some reason. But anyway, I also want to say that this isn't just limited to Ubuntu. You've also got distributions like Kali Linux, SUSE Linux, and then we can actually just look for the name Linux here. And we've got a ton of these. We've also got Debian here, and also OpenSUSE. Now, of course, not all of these are Linux distributions. We don't need to look at all of these. Now, not every distribution is on here. Like, for example, I couldn't find Arch Linux. Sorry for you Arch fans in the audience. But anyway, I'll speed this up. Alright, and once this is installed, we can of course launch it right from here, and we've also got it right in our start menu, so you can just launch it like you would any other Windows app, and it looks like the Windows Subsystem for Linux is not enabled, even though we did enable it, so I take that back about not having to restart. Restarting would actually be a pretty good idea. The good news is that this doesn't take long at all. Like, it's already got to the reboot itself in the time you've been listening to my voice, so it's not like a full-blown Windows update. But anyway, I'll speed this up. And actually, I didn't speed up much at all, because that's actually how long it took. But anyway, once we get to the desktop, we'll try our Linux subsystem again. Alright, now that we're back at our desktop, let's launch into Ubuntu, or rather, Ubuntu command line, and see how this goes. Okay, now it's actually installing. This will take a few minutes. Now, this won't take as long as a full-blown Ubuntu install, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes in case you're unfamiliar, but just know that this is not an instantaneous thing. And by the way, this only happens on first launch. Any subsequent launches will be extremely quick, especially by comparison. Alright, and then once that's done installing, it'll ask us to make an account. So we just enter in a username, and then it'll ask us to set a password, and then of course it asks us to retype it. Alright, and then after that, it'll give us our system information, like Ubuntu server would. So first thing we're gonna do, which is the first thing you should do with any Ubuntu server install, is just do a quick sudo apt update. And in case you're unfamiliar with Windows Subsystem for Linux, it's literally the same commands that you would use in a Linux terminal, just within Windows. But anyway, we're gonna hit enter, and then let this update. And of course, I'll speed this up. Alright, now that it's finished its check for updates, we can see that 63 packages can be upgraded. So we're going to do a sudo apt upgrade real quick and actually get those updates installed. Press enter and let it do its thing. Okay, then let's just go quickly check to make sure that there are no other updates. Nope. Okay, and by the way, to enable our SSH service, we would run sudo service ssh restart. But before I do, I just want to say that by default, this won't accept logging in over SSH with a password. So to allow that, we're gonna do sudo nano /etc/ssh/sshd_config, then hit enter. And then we're gonna find the line that says password authentication authentication, and then we're going to change that from no to yes. Just like that, then hit X, then hit Y, and then hit enter. It literally has the same file structure that you're used to on a Linux system. But anyway, now we're going to do a sudo service ssh restart. Then hit enter, and there we go. Now if the Windows firewall gives you a warning that your Windows subsystem is trying to get through the firewall, you're just going to click allow access. But anyway, now we can go to our Linux system and then SSH into it. Now actually we need the IP address for our Windows system, so we're going to type IPA. I know I could go into the Windows settings and do this, but you know what? Since we're here, it's literally just one simple command, so it's literally the fastest and simplest way to go. So we're going to go to our Ethernet interface right here, and that's our IP address, 192.168.0.182. So we're going to type that in into .168.0.182, and then we need to put our username at the IP address. Oh, and it's giving me this because I've actually done some experimentation with this before. So, pro tip, if you ever run into this, just go into your .ssh folder at the root of your home folder, and then delete this known hosts file, and then try again, and then we're going to type yes here, and now it'll let us log in like normal. Oh, and I think we actually need to restart our Windows system itself, but I don't really feel like doing that right now. But anyway, this is just one example of the command line tools that you will have access to here. Let's actually get htop installed here by doing a sudo apt install htop. Enter our password again. Oh, it's already installed. Okay, so let's just do htop, and then let's see what we have here. Well, not a lot of processes running. And now we have the same CPU and RAM resources that we'd have in our Windows system. Let's actually get out of here by hitting F10. If you're on a laptop, you may need to press F and F10, but I want to do an lsblk. Oh, okay, I can't access it, so we don't quite have all the commands, but hey, we have most of them. Like if we were to do a sudo reboot, it won't work. But anyway, if we just do a uname -r, it's actually running a older version of the Linux kernel, because if we were to open up a new terminal and type uname -r on our host system, we can see that we're already on 5.0 for Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, which is the latest LTS release at the time of shooting this video, and the release that we have here, if we do an lsb_release-a, there you go, 20.04 LTS. So yeah, this is not quite the same as having a Ubuntu server VM, hence my use of the word kind of when I describe this as being kind of like a Ubuntu server VM. But anyway, you can actually do a lot more with this, and I don't have time to go over everything, otherwise this video would be so long that it would break YouTube's 12-hour video length limit, because there's just that much you can do. But anyway, let's call it a day and close out of this. But before I end off this video, I just want to say that if you ever want to remove a Linux subsystem that you no longer need, you basically just go to the start menu, right click on it, then click uninstall again, and then it will be uninstalled, just like you would if you were uninstalling a regular old Windows app. And if you want to remove the Windows subsystem for Linux Windows feature, you literally just go back into your control panel, then go to programs, and then turn Windows features on or off. And again, you'll have to wait for this to load up. Since a Linux subsystem is pretty big compared to other Windows apps, it takes a while to remove. But anyway, once we're back in here, we just scroll back down to Windows Subsystem for Linux, and then uncheck this, then click OK, and then it'll go remove the libraries to run the Windows Subsystem for Linux. Alright, now that it's done, it's going to ask us to restart the PC, but before I do, I want to check if that Linux subsystem is removed, and yes it is. So let's actually shut this down and call it a day.
And that was Windows Subsystem for Linux in a nutshell. So thanks for watching. If you liked this video, found it was helpful, hit the like button, share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment.